Enslaved in Egypt, the Jewish people could not even hear Hashem's promise of redemption due to the backbreaking labor and their kotzei ruach, their shortness of breath. They were being spiritually suffocated in Egypt. There was some sort of block, some obstruction, something was stuck, preventing them from even believing that they could be redeemed. According to the Zohar, it wasn't only the Jewish nation that was in exile in Egypt, but the very faculty of speech itself was in exile. Galut hadibur. Moshe tells Hashem, Lo ish dvarim anochi. I'm not a man of words. Chvad peh uchvad lashon anochi. I'm heavy of mouth and heavy of tongue. Ani yarel sfatayim. I have sealed lips. Moshe's speech impediment was just a reflection of how speech itself was being impeded in Egypt. Some relate the word Mitzrayim to the word Mitzar, constriction, implying something narrow, an impasse of sorts. In fact, the name Paro is understood by some to imply peh ra, literally a wicked mouth. So what is the remedy to this forced silence? What is the antidote to this galut hadibur, this exile of speech? It's only when the Jewish people open up their mouths and raise their voice in prayer, crying out to Hashem, that they break through this impasse, this speech impediment, this vocal exile. The children of Israel groaned and cried out, and their cry rose up to Hashem from their labor, their work. Hashem heard their moaning and remembered his covenant with Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, and looked down upon the children of Israel and took notice of them. Ramban comments that it is the tza'akah, the cry of the Jewish people, which elicits Hashem's mercy and sets the wheels of redemption in motion. When we open up our mouths and call out, Hashem takes notice. The very act of speech, which had up till this point been in exile in Egypt, now becomes redemptive. The four expressions of crying out in these psukim correspond to the four expressions of redemption. And according to the Ari Kadosh, we experience this very redemptive quality of speech each and every year at the Pesach Seder, with the mitzvah of relating the story of the Exodus from Egypt. It's not sufficient to merely remember the story or read about the story, but we have to relate the story, sipur, with our faculty of speech. In fact, according to the Ari, the very name of the holiday itself, Pesach, can be understood to mean Pesach, the mouth speaks. We celebrate each year not only freedom from slavery and servitude, we celebrate the freedom of speech, because speech can't be in exile. That's not normal. That's not healthy. The religious world here in Israel and abroad is still reeling from the shock of the Chaim Walder story. And it's so important to talk about these things, because for far too long, speech has been in exile, so to speak, in the religious community. Abuse simply wasn't discussed, whether it was because it's too unpleasant or out of concern for creating a Chilul Hashem, a Shanda. Things were swept under the rug. Survivors of abuse were left to suffer in silence, and abusers were free to continue to abuse. Baruch Hashem, in recent years we've seen an increase in awareness in the frum world about abuse. But unfortunately, it's episodes like this which wake us up to the fact that there is so much more work that needs to be done. By speaking about abuse, we empower survivors to come forward, giving them a voice, allowing them to share their story and begin to heal. By speaking about abuse, we create awareness in our community and can educate our children about how to protect themselves. In Egypt, breaking the silence leads to redemption. Today, too, breaking the silence leads to redemption. Shabbat Shalom from Jerusalem.